That is actually shot in my living room. And I will say I was not wearing pants when I shot that.
Hey everyone, it's your girl, Emily Curl with iHeartRadio, and today we're here talking about the song and music video, Silhouette. We have the artist and the director here, and he does both. It's Kento. Kento, thank you so much for being here. How are you?
Good, thank you so much for having me. Really pumped.
I'm so excited. First off, congratulations on Silhouette. Like I mentioned, you were the director. Also, you starred in the video. Tell me a little bit, what was that experience like for you?
It was interesting because when you, for example, when you start directing, you're so used to like fixing all of your frames and adjusting everything all the time. So I actually had to have a stand-in be me so I could set up the shots, and then I would like switch with them. And then I would have my AD like, press record, and it was like a whole thing. Yeah, and then there were some things that I actually just recorded by myself in my apartment and like set up a studio, and that was an interesting experience because I had to keep adjusting, going back and forth. I will say the next time I definitely want to have a little bit more of a team there, because when you're trying to be the artist and the director, it's hard to just be the artist in the moment that you're being the artist, because you're still worried about like, oh, can you, but you're in the, So
now this is iHeart's Frame by Frame. So we're going to go through, deconstruct key frames from the music video. You tell me a little bit about behind the scenes. It already sounds like you have some interesting stories. So are you ready to start diving in to the first frame? I want to kick it off and I want you to set the scene for me. So obviously let's start with the people who are in this video. Tell me a little bit about who's in there and how you casted them.
So Alex at the top, I met on a job a long time ago, and I was like, you're cool, and we became friends. And then when this came about, I was like, do you want to be in my video? You have like a really cool vibe. And he was like, yeah, I'll do it. And then below me is HG. She's a friend of the stylist who came in, and I was like, you're so beautiful, we have to shoot you. And then my friend is really good friends with OG, who is the guy right behind me. And then right next to me is Garnet Rubio, who's like a long friend of mine.
I have to say too, the styling here is so cool.
Yeah, so that's all Paulo Raimundo from Paradox Vested Relics. He basically created all of the outfits, either from scratch or from repurposed materials. And we wanted to have a kind of 90s Colors of Benetton vibe. This is like a theater scene, so we're kind of like peeking out at like an audience in a way. And I wanted the video to kind of have that vibe of like being on a stage or being on a screen, and being kind of like judged or being just watched, and you're kind of like, what's going on here?
Ooh, this is interesting too, because I feel like you're watching so intensely back. It's a nice juxtaposition.
Like I'm watching myself back in the other frame, so yeah.
Now, speaking of watching yourself, let's go on to our second frame. We see a close-up of your eyes. And this is so cool too. We can see the reflection of the red. Tell me a little bit about how you got this shot and why you wanted to include it.
I thought it would be good to have a close-up of like kind of what I was doing in that moment. And it's kind of like a blank stare, because I feel like sometimes when you're like when you have to be on, you're just on this like robotic pattern. And so that's sort of that like blankness that you kind of feel sometimes when you're just going through the motions and getting what you have to do done.
And what about the lighting setup? What did that look like?
So there was like a base light in the middle that was kind of like just a soft light, and then there were two big soft boxes on the side, and then a bunch of little things that were lighting little things like hair or clothes or different things that I needed to highlight in the moment. There were a lot of shots that needed certain continuity of like, for example, like there's a laser over here that we're putting in post, so we need to have a little bit of a red light over here, and so that's like an extra thing that we added.
I'm curious, our next frame, let's go ahead and pull it up. I loved these light leaks. Is this kind of what you're talking about for the laser added in post? Is this the moment?
Exactly. Yeah, so that shot is just shot on a black background, and in post I added the laser later, and there's like probably like 50 layers to each laser, because we need it to kind of have that motion that it's going like an actual laser. And there's sort of like, there's dust particles and fog and things like that, and they all had to interact with the scene as well and kind of create this organic flow.
So next up, we have this glass slow-mo. And honestly, this was one of my favorite shots because, for one, how did you shoot this? How did you get the glass? So many questions.
Yeah, so this glass was actually pre-cut, so we didn't shatter anything. I didn't want to have a whole moment. And there are actual little shards, but they're not actually glass. It's like little pieces of glitter. And then in post, we added extra elements to it. So it creates this effect that it looks like it's real glass, but there was nobody harmed in the making of this shot.
So when you're shooting it, are you just dropping the glass and you're shooting it in slow-mo?
Yeah, this was actually shot like with the camera tilted this way, and then we dropped it vertically and then twisted it horizontally after.
Another thing that I wanted to call out was our next frame, which is we have the two people fencing here. I thought that was something interesting to include. How did you decide on this?
This was actually not originally shot for this video. It was shot for something, a different project a couple years ago that we ended up not using. But I loved the footage so much. So when I started doing this video, I was thinking that would be great in this video. And originally the concept was a little bit more centered around this idea, but then we would have to reshoot sort of the same scenario over again. And just to get that same feeling, I was thinking, you know what, let's add this in this sort of way where it kind of flows with the other frames. Like you'll see like there's like two hands coming together. One of them is my hand and one of them is Amita's. And when they sort of touch the laser, that's when things sort of kind of explode a little bit. And, you know, the same with the matches, like, you know, if you have one match and you put it on another match that's not lit, it'll explode in like a kind of bigger fire. So you see these two people kind of like at odds with each other. So there's this kind of juxtaposition of different opposing forces maybe, or forces that want to join together. You either can come together and like create something amazing, or like you can come together and like kind of just burn the whole thing up.
Yeah, I mean, in talking about the concept as a whole, how did you land on this concept? And what were you trying to say, you know, especially in regards to the inspiration for the song?
So the song is about, you know, finding what you love and doing it without apologizing for it, you know, and there's always going to be people in your life that are like, oh, well, why did you do that? Or are you sure? Or kind of making you doubt yourself, or just plain mean or whatever. And you got to kind of just like not even worry about that and just keep pushing and moving forward. And so this video is kind of my representation of like imagining yourself being on like a pedestal or a stage or a screen and being scrutinized by people, and then kind of just keeping going and keeping going and keeping going and just kind of moving forward and getting what you want out of life, really.
Let's go into our next frame. I want to talk about this theater for a second. Set the scene for me. Where was this located? Where was this shot? And was this the same place you shot everything?
So this is actually CGI.
Oh, what?
100% CGI.
No way.
The projector is actually an old projector that I found on eBay, but the whole theater scene is CGI. Yeah.
Oh man, I literally was like, where is this? This looks amazing.
Yeah, no, we were trying to get into an actual theater or amphitheater or something like that. And with COVID and everything, and it was right at the time where like things were still very restricted. Put a couple feelers out. I wasn't hearing back in time. And then a week before our actual shoot, I was like, I'm going to CGI that, it's fine. And then I just like planned for that in my head, you know?
Wow. Yeah, and for the other shots that were shot in person, where was that located? Was this like just one studio?
Yeah, it was mostly in Brooklyn, and then there were some pieces that were shot in my apartment. Like the footage actually that you see in that theater part, that is actually shot in my living room. And I will say I was not wearing pants when I shot that.
Honestly, that's quarantine for you though. It's like, is anyone ever on Zoom these days? No.
Right. Well, I mean, I am now, you know, but
Sure.
You never know.
So we see light bulbs throughout the entire video. Tell me a little bit about the significance of including these in there.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of that idea of dark to light and you know, making something shine and you know, that it's not that deep. It was just more of like, okay, there's lights here, lights are changing here. And I thought it'd be interesting to have like a white light bulb on a white background, because it's like kind of very matchy and not so common.
And then we see lots of other colors jumping ahead. I love the colors that you landed on, especially for these filters. This is some of my favorite parts. How did you decide, again, like the color theory of the video? I know we kind of touched on it in the beginning, but walk me through your process there.
Yeah, so in the beginning, I created this color scheme where I was like, it's all gonna be red yellow, blue, and green. Like that's like the main theme.
And for the logistics of this shot, is this something that was added in post? Is this a filter on a camera? How did we get these layers?
This is a bit of both, actually. This is actually while I was filming, I just like took a piece of the filter and just crept it up and thought and like liked the way that it created like a crispness on one edge and then like a sort of softness on another edge depending on how you angled it. And I just thought it was like a really cool way to kind of wash the frames visually and make you kind of feel like you're a little bit in a trance like at the end, you know. And it's also like very happy, uplifting colors that kind of set a mood. So yeah. And then there were other things that I like added some little effects in post because like the frames weren't fully covered and I thought it would look better or things like that.
Okay, I have a couple more for you. This next one, I want to talk about the fencing and lighting composition here. I know we saw the fencers from the side, and now knowing this is from a different project, this is interesting. So I was curious the significance of how quickly this cuts from back and forth. Again, walk me through your process. Especially too, we see the fencer now straight on. We see some other people in the cast. We see the light bulb. What did this thought process look like for you?
Yeah, so I just lucked out that I had shot this footage with a light background and a dark background, like because it just worked out in the sort of storyline of the video. I kind of wanted to show a little bit more of like a resolution maybe with the fencers, like they weren't so much at odds with each other and they're kind of taking a step back. That with, you know, the frames of the three people, which is Ivy Getty, Amita Batra, and HG. I thought that it was like a cool kind of back and forth between like the different scenes that were happening, almost like they're watching what's happening and kind of like just observing, you know.
What did they think when you showed them the final video?
Well, the feedback I'm getting is like, oh my god, like I didn't know that this is what it would look like, because you know, even the shot in the beginning where there is the curtains and everything, it was about half of that size, and then it was like later added to look like a larger space in post.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so I was like, what's the bare minimum we can do to like get this shot, you know?
Okay, so last one for you, Kento, is we wanted to talk a little bit about this last shot, the changing of aspect ratio here. We love the changing over time where we can like see it getting smaller and smaller. Talk to me a little bit about your process and why you wanted to do something like that.
Yeah, so when I first moved to New York, I used to go and watch a lot of ballet, and I always noticed, and this is something that I think I will always see throughout my videos, is I like things to begin and end sort of on a similar note. And if you watch like a lot of like modern dance and ballet, there's a lot of that happens in the sort of style of dance. And so visually, I kind of wanted to create that. So when you see the beginning, it kind of starts off a little bit, you know, on a wider aspect ratio and kind of pulls you in a little bit. And then at the end, as like it tightens up on my eyes, because it's almost like that sort of like intense moment, it kind of goes back, and then it goes back to a shot of like a hand just kind of blissfully like hanging out in the world, you know?
I love the dancing. Are you a dancer? I love the dancing analogy. Or
Not
you just
at
like
all.
appreciate the art?
I am a terrible dancer. Yeah.
You just enjoy it. Well, Kento, thank you so much for going frame by frame with us. Congratulations on Silhouette. Before we let you go, what else can we look forward to from you this year?
So I do have another single that will be coming out later in the year. And then a little bit later in the year, a full album called Strangers. So definitely check out for that. There's a lot of music, a lot of stuff that I wrote before quarantine, during quarantine, and I'm so excited to just like show it to the world. It's finally time.
Well, we can't wait to see it. Kento, thank you so much for being here. Thank you all for watching. Make sure you stream. Go watch the video for Silhouette out now and stream all of Kento's music on iHeartRadio. Thank you so much for being here. Kento, we'll see you soon.
Thank you. See you soon.
Hey guys, thanks so much for watching. Did you like that video? You can check out more over here. And don't forget to subscribe to iHeart right here. And if you're already a longtime fan, make sure you ring the bell down below so you don't miss a single video. Bye guys.